Crown Court, P743/236, Episode 1, Part 1, edited copy.
I call Mrs. Anne Robertson.
What is your religion?
Socialist.
If she is an atheist, which I suppose is what she means, she may affirm.
Read aloud the words on this card and raise your right hand.
I do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, you are Mrs. Anne Robertson of 15 Brent Gardens, Fulcherstown.
Today's leading case in the Crown Court is a civil action. Mrs. Annie Robertson has brought an action for libel against Stephen Ash, a Social Security officer working for the Department of Health and Social Security. She alleges that certain official reports made by Ash, which led to her Social Security benefits being withdrawn, were defamatory and malicious. The reports are said to be defamatory because in them it was stated that Mrs. Robertson was an alcoholic, mentally unstable, and cohabiting with a man called Edward Rimmer.
Yes, you have two children. What are their ages?
Well, Janice, she's 6, and Roger, he's almost 4.
Yes. And in 1972, did you also have a lodger?
My lord,
Yes.
the exact status of Mr. Rimmer in the household is a major issue in this case, as my learned friend well knows.
Yes, that is plainly so, Mr. Parsons.
Yes, I'm sorry, my lord, I rephrased that question. In 1972, was there another member of the household?
Yes, Ted Rimmer.
Yes. Now, what was Mr. Rimmer's status in the household? I mean, how did you regard him?
Well, I mean, can I use a word?
Just answer the question, please, Mrs. Robertson.
He was a lodger, of course.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Parsons, having made your point, I suggest that from now on we refer to Mr. Rimmer as, Mr. Rimmer.
Yes, very well, my lord. Now, Mr. Rimmer paid for his accommodation, did he?
Well, that depended.
On what?
Whether he was in work, in the mood. I mean, whether he had any money.
Yes, but was he supposed to pay for his accommodation, and if so, how much?
£2.50 a week.
Yes. Now, did you have any other source of income?
My book.
What, your Social Security book, payments made by the Department of Social Security?
Yes, yes.
Now, how much did that amount to?
£13.75.
Yes, so with what Mr. Rimmer gave you, and I know you say he didn't pay you every week, that would give you a maximum weekly income of £16.25.
That's right.
Yes. Now, who was the person from the department who dealt with any queries arising out of your benefit? The defendant, Mr. Ash?
Yes.
Yes. Now, would you tell the court what happened on September the 19th, 1972?
My book was withdrawn.
Oh,
Yes. Now, how did you support yourself and your two children after that?
Well, I mean, Ted, he helped out for a bit.
Mr. Rimmer?
Yes, well, for a couple of weeks.
Yes. And then?
Well, when he left. I mean, he had a wife, an ex-wife and a kid. He had to pay maintenance to her, and we just lost his job. He couldn't do any more.
Yes. Now, why was your book withdrawn on September the 19th?
Because I wouldn't sleep with him.
My lord,
Oh, yes, Mr. Frank. That is what you believe. That is why you believe your book was withdrawn.
Oh, yes.
Do you realize the extreme gravity of what you are saying? That payments were withheld from you because you refused to have intercourse with the defendant, Stephen Ash?
Yes, I do.
And the reason stated for the withdrawal of your book, what was that?
Yeah, well, they don't put refused intercourse.
Yes, just answer my question.
Cohabitation.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes, cohabiting with Mr. Rimmer.
Yes.
And were you living together as man and wife?
No. I mean, that was ridiculous. I met Ted Rimmer at a New Year's party in 1970. I was still living with my husband then.
What happened to your husband?
Oh, he went off with somebody. He just vanished.
When was that?
That'd be the middle of 1970, about June, yeah. I was 5 months pregnant with Roger at the time.
Yes, Roger is your husband's child.
Of course he is.
Yes. Did you have intercourse with Mr. Rimmer?
Yeah.
When was the first time?
By the end of 1970, at a Christmas party, that was a year after I'd first met him.
Yes, and after that, shall we say, did you have an affair with him?
See, I mean, it's difficult to make you straight people understand.
Straight?
Yes, my lord, I believe by straight my client means more or less conventional people like myself. And possibly your lordship.
Ah. What is it that's so difficult for us to understand?
I'll tell you. See, I've had my session with one man till death us do part, thank you very much. I'm on my own now. I support my 2 kids. I haven't got a fella and I don't want one. See, Ted there, he's the same. He doesn't want a woman, he's a Roma. We don't fit into any kind of slot. Now, you may not like that, but it's just the way it is. Yeah. Well, when Ted lost his digs at the end of 1971, he crashed in my place for a few days. And then he said, I mean, why should he pay for digs when he could pay me? How about it? He only needed a doss down. Look, he was scarcely never there most of the time. To say that we were living as man and wife, I mean, it's something that only he could have thought up.
Yes. Now, do you remember the events of September the 15th, 1972?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Now, will you please tell the court what happened?
Well, it was about tea time, just about 6 o'clock. Janice, she was out playing, she was next door. And Roger, he was just 2 then. He'd been in bed all day with a bad cough. See, people don't realise those houses are so rotten with damp, your child's whole future
Mrs.
can
Dawson,
be...
just try and keep to the events of that evening, please.
Yeah, well, I thought that I was going down with the same bug as Roger, you see. So I went in to get undressed to go to bed for a bit, and then a doorbell went, and I put on my dressing gown, and it was him, Stephen Ash.
Yes, were you expecting him?
Of course I wasn't expecting him.
I mean, you received no communication to the effect that he was going to pay you a visit.
Communication? Listen, they come when it bloody suits them. Yeah, well... I mean, he came in and he started abusing me. He started straight into me. He said, who did I think I was trying to con? He wasn't blind. He knew that Ted had moved into my room, and unless I gave him what he wanted, he would see that my...
Just a moment. Are those the actual words he used?
What?
Unless you give me what I want. Did he actually say that?
No, but that was what he meant. See, he always went round the houses...
Yes, well, Mrs. Robinson, if you just tell us what he said.
He said, leave him or you'll lose your benefit.
He said that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
But he even wanted us to set up house together.
But in so many words?
No, love, that wasn't his way. See, he hinted, nudge, nudge. I've had some heavy passes in my time, but...
Yes. Now, what did you say to all this?
Go away.
Were those the actual words?
Words I use no piss off.
Yes, and did he, go?
No. He followed me about. He went all peculiar, all sort of worked up. I'd never seen him like that before. He kept saying, they'll cut off your benefit like that. You understand that? They'll cut it off, as long as you understand that. I mean, I just, I shut off. You stop hearing. I felt bloody awful, and I said to him, look, you can do what you like, but I'm going to my bed. Well, I went into the bedroom and I started taking off my dressing gown, and the next thing I know, he's all over me.
What exactly did he do to you?
Well, he just kind of mauled me about.
Where?
Yes.
Your breasts?
Yes, he was like a maniac. And then a flat door went, and Ted...
Mr. Rimmer?
Yes, he threw him out of the flat.
Yes. Now, why didn't you go to the police?
You what?
The police.
Oh.
Why didn't you go to the police?
Just answer counsel's question.
Our word against him? Who do you think they're going to believe? Listen, if you're on your own with 2 kids, all the SS think you must be dying for it, an easy lay. And the police are the same as the SS, fascists, the whole lot of them.
Silence, silence.
Mrs. Robertson, if you have these feelings about the police and about the impossibility of a court preferring your story to Mr. Ash's, why are you going through this whole process now?
Because we found evidence on paper.
Yes, my lord, in the agreed bundle of documents, page 4.
Yes.
Now, do you recognize the document on page 4 there?
Yes.
Now, when did you first see it?
On the 19th of April 1973 at the DHSS in Rayburn Road. The clerk had left it on the table.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And then?
I just picked it up and walked out.
Yes. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will see that the document on page 4 is, in fact, a copy of Mrs. Robertson's DHSS form A6M. And you will notice in section 9 that there is a cross marked against the important features relating to the claimant in the box marked mental health doubtful. Now, Mrs. Robertson, has your mental fitness ever been in any doubt?
No.
No. Now, you will also notice, members of the jury, that in part 2 of section 9, under other important features, it states, mentally unstable, a manic depressive sort of person with violent mood changes. Now, Mrs. Robertson, have you ever been seen by or treated by a psychiatrist?
No.
Has any doctor or medical authority ever suggested you should see a psychiatrist?
No.
Has anyone ever suggested you should see a psychiatrist?
Only him.
The defendant?
Yeah. He's the one who should see a psychiatrist.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, it also says she can manage home and children well at times, but problems arise due to her being well on the way to becoming an alcoholic, is violent and unreliable. Now, Mrs. Robertson, are you well on the way to becoming an alcoholic?
No.
But you do drink on occasions.
Yeah, I mean, I take a drink, but not like that.
Yes. Now, would you read the words which have been underlined in the recommendation for action which Mr. Ash sent to his superior officer?
Cohabitation. Suspicions now confirmed. Aforesaid E. Rimmer has sex with this woman. This is not denied. There is a common meal table and bedroom. Claimant at one time admitted that one of her 2 children, Roger, was Rimmer's child. Subsequently retracted this. Claimant cautioned, became violent, both physical and verbal, refused to make statement, although strongly advised to do so.
Yes. Now, Mrs. Robertson, the evening when you say that Mr. Ash indecently assaulted you, what date was that?
September the 15th, 1972.
Yes. Now, members of the jury, as you will see, the date on this report recommending the withdrawal of Mrs. Robertson's Social Security card was just 3 days later, September the 18th, 1972.
You believe in militancy, do you, Mrs. Robertson?
I believe in fighting for what's right, yes.
Well, let's have a look at a fight you had on the 12th of August, 1972. You were at the Rayburn Road DHSS office on that day, weren't you?
Well, I don't know.
Then let me refresh your memory. You were arguing on behalf of a Mrs. Violet Lambert
Oh, that.
for a special clothing allowance for her daughter, Cheryl. In the course of that argument, you threw a shoe through the office window, didn't
No.
you? A window was broken, wasn't it?
Yes.
By a shoe?
A kid's shoe, yes.
Well, perhaps you'd care to tell us your version of what happened.
Yes. They wouldn't give her the clothing allowance. See, they said she'd got shoes. She had. Holes with cardboard round them. I was pointing that out to the clerk when a manager came through, so I passed the shoe to him.
And he missed it.
That's right.
How much do you drink?
What?
That's a simple question, isn't it?
Average?
Lord, I'd like to introduce an exhibit which is pertinent at this particular point.
Indeed.
Would you look at this, please? You recognize it? It's a bill, isn't it? From the Fulchester Carafe Wine Company Limited. This is a mail-order company, my lord, supplying the cheaper varieties of vin ordinaire.
Long.
Yes, my lord. Now, this is quite clearly for deliveries in August and September of 1972 to you, at your address, the total sum being £45.70. Did you take those deliveries?
I don't know.
Did you or did you not?
Yes.
For your own consumption?
Yeah, well, there's always a lot of people in and out the house.
No doubt. Who paid the bill? Mrs. Robertson, a £5 a week wine bill would be somewhat beyond the means of a woman living on social security, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Who paid it?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Oh, come on, Mrs. Robertson. Oh, well, let's see if you can remember something else. Would you look at this photograph, please? This is number 10 in the agreed bundle, my lord.
Yes.
Now, that's you with Mr. Rimmer, who is holding the baby.
Yes.
A family group. It looks like a family group, doesn't it?
So what does that prove? We're human beings. That was a happy afternoon.
Now, you say you first met Mr. Rimmer at a party and then slept with him after another party a year later.
Yes.
Now, from January 1970, when you first met him, to June of that year is 6 months, and in June of that year, you were 5 months pregnant, weren't you?
Yes, but that's...
Now, just a moment. If you had slept with Rimmer when you first met him, it would have been possible for you to be pregnant by him in June, wouldn't it?
Possible, but as I
Mrs.
didn't...
Robertson, we've seen that you haven't got the best of memories. Is it possible that your memory has got these two parties confused?
You mean I slept with him in the January and didn't meet him until the following Christmas?
It wouldn't be surprising in your sort of society, would it?
Oh, dear me.
I beg your
Mr.
pardon, my
Fry,
lord, I should not have said
now.
that. Whenever the date when you first slept with Rimmer, the relationship developed into a much closer one, didn't it?
Rubbish.
To the extent where he was paying some of your bills.
Listen, that's a load of... That was his bill. You don't understand.
Indeed I don't. It's got your name on it. Surely you're not trying to deny that. If he was supporting your drinking to this extent, what else was he paying for? Was your social security benefit a nice little bonus, extra pocket money?
You've got no right to say that.
I have every right to put that question to you, Mrs. Robertson, just as Mr. Ash had every right to protect public money.
Ted, Mr...
Yes?
Yeah, well, it's confused. It was 2 years ago.
What happened on the 15th of September 1972 that's not confused?
When something like that happens to you, you do remember it.
Well, let's see, shall we? I'm obliged to my learned friend who's gone to a great deal of trouble to separate the meanings you read into your interview with Mr. Ash from the words you actually quote him as using. They're very simple in number. Leave him or you lose your benefit. Leave him or you lose your benefit. Are they not the very words he should have used? They'll cut off your benefit like that, as long as you understand that. Now, Mrs. Robertson, if Mr. Ash thought that you were cohabiting with Mr. Rimmer, was it not his duty to give you that warning?
Yes, but it was the way...
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
it was the way he said
You
that.
thought there was something about his tone of voice that indicated that his motivation was personal rather than professional.
Yes.
That's your interpretation, Mrs. Robertson. Now, let's see if we can take this memory of yours back to the point where you'd entered the bedroom. You started taking off your dressing gown.
Yes.
Before Mr. Ash came into the room.
Yes.
Why was that?
I was ill. I was going to bed.
In the course of taking off your dressing gown, did you say, well, come on, come and get it if you want it?
Oh.
Mrs. Robertson, I would remind you that you are on oath. Did you or did you not use those words?
Not those words, no.
Words like them.
That
Words
was
like
a
them.
joke. His face...
So you did use them? And are you seriously asking the jury to believe that you were joking?
Yeah, but I never thought that he would... I couldn't get rid of him. I just couldn't get him out of the flat. He was round me like a fly, don't you understand?
I think I understand very well, Mrs. Robertson. You knew that Mr. Ash was coming that evening,
Oh,
didn't you?
I honestly didn't.
And you knew what he was going to say, didn't you?
No, look, you can't say that. I didn't know he was coming and I didn't give him the come on. I didn't. I knew it was the one way to get rid of him. He's frightened of sex.
And are you telling us that a man who was frightened of sex committed a sexual assault on you? It's all very confused and contradictory, isn't it, Mrs. Robertson? The product of a confused and contradictory mind, Mrs. Robertson. I have no more questions, my lord.
Now, Mrs. Robertson, were you not assaulted on the evening of the 15th of September 1972 by Mr. Ash, as you described?
I was.
Now, this joke, this remark you made, it was made in a frivolous manner in order to shock him away. Is that what you were trying to tell
I was
us?
just so fed up with him.
Yes, but it didn't have the desired effect.
No, he just came at me.
Yes, now, one moment. Where were you standing in relation to him? Were you facing the door?
No, I was partly turned away and had my arms half in and... You see, that's why I couldn't do anything about it for a minute. I was all tangled up in that bloody gown.
I have no further questions, my lord.
You may leave the witness box, Mrs. Robertson.
I call Edward Rimmer. You are Edward Winston Rimmer of 18 Canal Side, Fulchester.
Yeah.
Now, where were you living in August and September 1972?
Big Annie's, Mrs. Robertson.
Yes. What was your relationship?
I lodged there. I was there on and off for a couple of years, 1971 and 2. Mostly off because I move about a lot, you see, but once the SS see a pair of trousers, well, they jump on you, just to save themselves a few lousy quid a week. That's what it was all about.
Yes. Now, by the SS, you mean the Department of Social Security.
Yeah.
Now, you have, in fact, got a wife in Liverpool to whom you pay maintenance benefit.
Ex-wife.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. What accommodation do you have with Mrs. Robertson?
Little corner. Put-you-up thing in the living room. Ted's Corner, the kids called it.
Yes. And do you pay for this?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
£2.50.
And do you pay for anything else?
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, for example, this bill from the Fulchester Carafe Wine Company.
Every bottle of that was paid for.
Well, yes, but that wasn't the question. Do you mean there was some doubt as to whether it was paid for at all?
No, but you see,
Did you or did you not pay for this wine?
Yes, Your Honour. Your Lordship.
And you bought it from Mrs. Robertson?
Yeah.
Now, did you provide any other form of financial support?
No. Well, presents, you know.
Presents?
Yeah, like clothes for the kids. You see, I mean, I didn't want people to think that I was...
You liar, you never did.
I did, love!
Mrs. Robertson, I will not tolerate any interruption of these proceedings. If you try to talk to the witness again, I'll have you removed.
I mean, we weren't cohabitating. That's a daft suggestion. But I didn't want to give people the impression that I would let them...
Mr. Rimmer, if you just confine yourself to answering my questions, please. Now, September the 15th, 1972, what time did you get back to 15 Brent Gardens that evening?
6:30 about.
Yes, and what happened when you entered the flat?
They were fighting in the bedroom.
Did you actually see them fighting?
She told me that he'd
Now,
come...
Mr. Rimmer, if you just tell us what you saw.
Well, it was obvious what he'd been up to.
Did you actually see any of it yourself? Did you actually see the defendant's hands on her?
Well, no, not exactly on her, but only just off her.
I see.
Her nightdress was torn, ripped right down the middle.
The case of Robertson versus Ash will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court.